Good morning, everyone. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross. I am here with Julie Tuigo, and we are here again with Moses Brings Plenty. Yay! We can't get enough of Moses. He's going to be our special guest for every Sunday for the next 6 months. But anyways, for today. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Hiani Wash Day.
How are you doing?
Doing good. Just dealing with this frigid air and some snow, and but it's good. I love winters too. It just takes me back to when we were kids. But I'm also a lover of spring and fall. And but good. How are you all doing?
Good. Thank you for coming back on after our last show with you. The news feed was like, have him come on again, and you got a lot of really positive feedback, and a lot of people enjoyed the discussion. And so thank you for coming back on with us, Moses.
No. Thank you. You women are doing a really good thing, and I said it before and I'm gonna say it again. I'm very proud of both of you for what you're both doing. You know, it means a lot, and so thank you so very much for having me on the show. So we want to.
I've was saying that we need to do a Mo and Joe hour.
Oh yeah, that'd be wonderful.
On
man.
And just I said, but then we're just gonna all be silly and out of hand, and there might be some blackmail stuff that comes out live that we didn't intend to.
Be no holds barred. They're just laughing all the time. That'd be wonderful. I love that. Them good deep laughs is good medicine, you know. And so it's awesome. It's awesome. I always get that with my brother. No, there's no holding back. It's just awesome. I love it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, especially with the people, you know. I love it. So yeah, we should do that. We should make that happen.
The last time we talked a lot about who Moses is, and we didn't really get to talk about what you are now. You know, like we talked about what got Moses to be Moses. But then this is just a silly joke, and hopefully your mom and dad aren't listening because they might get mad at me. But I was thinking about your names the other night, Moses and Joseph. Are you guys biblical people? Are you guys biblical names, Moses and Joseph?
Yeah, that's why I go by Mo.
Can we get like all satirical and talk about how you're going to lead us through the desert?
You know, I used to get teased a lot when we was kids for the name Moses, and then as I became more involved in our rights and it's making a stand for our rights, so on and so forth, I began to like, Moses. All right, I'm gonna start using that and tell people, you know, it's time to let my people go. It's time that my people be allowed to be free, and so yeah. But that's why I changed my name. Oh, I didn't change it. I still have Moses, but I use Mo a lot, just for that reason. And again, it's nothing against anyone else's religion or faith. It's just kind of for me on a personal level. I use Mo a lot, and so yeah. But it is. I mean, if you look back, when our people were put on reservations in these prison camps, they couldn't comprehend that each individual had their own identity and the name that described their identity or who they were. And so they try to make a switch from our matriarchal setting and they pushed us into this patriarchal way of thinking. And so they took the male and stripped the females, the women, of their true identity and bestowed the male's name onto them and made them take it as their last name. And so Eastman, I think, was one of the individuals. He was an Indian who was part of helping to rename the people, give them first names, middle names. So they went through to help assimilate. They put a lot of biblical names onto the people. And so Moses John was my first. I'm named after, my first name Moses is after my grandfather on my mother's side, and John is my grandfather on my father's side's middle name. So, but I go by Mo. So anyway, just a little history. Look at Maggie. Oh dang, that's funny. I'm trying to be all serious, and here we go.
Kind of like in the Middle Ages, or how people come to be identified as property.
Yep.
So you have
Yep.
Erickson, Danielson, Davidson, Peterson. All of that is it was saying that you were Peter's son, you were David's son, you were.
Yep. Yep. Exact. Again, we live in a society. It's all about ownership. You know, and that's yeah. Anyway, so what are we going to talk about today? What would you all like to talk about?
Well, I want to read your performances and your roles. And I missed some last time, but in the event this is somebody's first time watching, we're here with Mo Brings Plenty, an Oglala Lakota television, film, and stage actor, as well as a traditional drummer and singer. Performances in Reilly, roles in Yellowstone, Cowboys vs. Aliens, Hell on Wheels, The Good Lord Bird, Wildfire, The American West, The Glorias, American Experience, Res Bomb, The Wild West, and stunts in The Revenant and Holy Man. I think there were 2 I forgot.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Yeah. Just super, super proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been an adventure. It's been a wild journey. I mean, you know, it's, if you think about it, when, especially now in this day and age, where we talk a lot about diversity, and well, there's a lot of language about diversity, and how people are talking about, or fighting, making their voices heard about, you know, equal pay all the way across the board for all genders, for male and female, and people of color. You look at the award shows now. I mean, there's a lot of people of color that are directors, actors and actresses are starting to get some acknowledgement. But for us as Indian people, we're still kind of in the background. I mean, I've been on some projects where I just kind of felt like I was part of set decoration, versus being utilized. And so we're now, like on Yellowstone, boy, it's a whole different realm. You know, we are not just part of set. You know, we're not just a set decoration or even declared that. We are actually part of the story. And so it's been a blessing in many aspects, in many ways, that we are getting this opportunity as Indian people to be part of, to help tell a story. And so for me, when I look at so many things, I mean, you know, Cowboys and Aliens was a good project. Jon Favreau he took into consideration the sensitivity and the the life of Indian people. And what I liked about that project was you had two different cultures that set aside their differences to stand to that, and they came together and they fought a common enemy. They made a stand against a common enemy. And so that's what I really loved about that project, you know. And now today, when Yellowstone first started, you know, Thomas Rainwater, and his driver, we were almost I would say kind of a thorn, not just a thorn, but almost like we were almost kind of becoming an enemy to the Dutton family. And as the season progressed, I was like, wow, this is going to be quite interesting. But season 2 began, and there was a new enemy, and that enemy also became an enemy to us, and always has been an enemy to us as well. And so again, to stand side by side, set aside our differences as neighbors, we stood side by side because it was about the future. It was about our existence. I mean, you know, because a good friend of mine, Cole Palferman, he's full on Caucasian. But truly, I honestly, I declare that guy as a brother. He's a young man who still has a hold of the old cowboy culture. You know, he still does things the old cowboy way. Nothing modern with him other than his vehicle and trailer. But other than that, he does everything else as old cowboy, as old traditional as possible in a cowboy way. But we spend a lot of time talking about the cultures, and we've noticed that the old cowboy culture is fading. And then you look at Indian culture, tradition, it's also in the brink of fading as well. It's sad to say that, but it's the truth, you know. And so we often have conversations of how can we encourage our young people to embrace the traditions. And then here comes Yellowstone, you know, Taylor Sheridan and John and Kevin Costner and all these amazing, talented individuals, and now they're bringing back to light a culture that that was fading, you know. And so I really am just honored to be a part of that, because again, Taylor, he's so strong and honest, and he's loyal to both cultures. And so he really brings that to light, and he doesn't want the Indian people to be forgotten about in telling the story. He doesn't want Indian people's backstory to be forgotten about as the stories, you know, as the seasons progress, starting from season 1, so on and so forth. And again, you know, like Gil Birmingham does such an amazing job in portraying Rainwater as an educated man, you know, who didn't grow up with this culture. And then you have his sidekick, Mo, who did grow up on a reservation, did have that opportunity to be around the culture, and is now playing an influence in a lot of Rainwater's decisions and choices that he's made for the, you know, within the tribal council and for the people, and the direction that the tribe should go. And I think that not just on the show should stand true in every single one of our reservations. You know, we have our educated people, we have our traditional people. I've said it in the last show. You know, we will be more successful if we can stand side by side in the process and protection and revitalization of our sovereignty, of our cultural identity, and the well-being of our elders, youth, and our peers. You know, so I love the show Yellowstone, and I'm really glad that we have fans, you know, that I would still be very much a fan of Yellowstone, but if I was in it or not, because just of the stories that Taylor and is putting together and how he's telling it, you know, he's again, I have a lot of love for my brother Taylor Sheridan and his family. His family is my family, you know, and that will never change. And so I just really am thankful to be a part of this. And, you know, just we have a lot of laughs, Gil and I. You know, we have a lot of laughs. And I really can't say a whole lot about what may occur, what may not occur in season 4. But I will tell you this, the wait is well worth it. The wait is well worth it. Um, as far as my character goes, some people are gonna probably love him. Some people will love him, and some people will more than likely hate him. But you know, it's. I'm really excited. I'm excited to get to for people to see season 4. Actually, I can't wait myself. I'm just like everyone else. I mean, yeah, we get to read the scripts, but when the characters, whether it's Kelly who plays Beth Dutton, you know, when they bring their flavor to the table and they bring this dialogue to life, I see it in Gil all the time. It like takes this whole story to like a whole nother level. And then when you see it on the screen, it brings, I mean, because there's such amazing directors that work on the show. You know, Christina, Steven, Guy. I mean, there's just not Taylor himself, but there's other individuals that add these other elements to it. And so it just is like, wow, that's all I got to say. I mean, people obviously know that when they watch the first season, second, and third. And so it's worth the wait. That's all I got to say.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Waiting patiently over here. I wanted to ask you something. This Koryanka Kilcher, she is in the role of Angela Blue Thunder. She's the attorney.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love her. And she had a scene where she said something that I think resonated really well, where she talked about her goal was the land back. Like she had this distrust and this you know, she walked with both worlds, but she had this statement that, you know, she preferred the land back, wanted the land back and missed that way, and that was her priority. And I love that that was stated, because yeah, we can go out in the world and be this, do that, see this and do that, but at the end of the day, like she never lost her identity and her role as like a Native American woman, and that was her strength. And I just love that was in there. She's just such a strong character, and I'm glad that it was representative of a lot of people's views. Right. You know, and as a Native woman, like I said, I just love how our people are represented in there. It's not a how, you know, role, it's an actual embedded thinking of how we are. So I love that.
Yeah, and she even teamed up with Beth Dutton. I mean, you know, so it was a very pivotal moment. I mean, you know, she does an amazing job with that character. It's such a powerhouse role, you know, and has such a presence. And so when I watch them scenes, you know, I'm like, oh man, I want that for our people in real life, you know. And so yeah, she does an amazing job. That's for dang sure. It was just to be. I remember it's such a part. She has such a presence that, you know, is supposed to be intimidating. And when she walked through that door, when we start rolling our first scene, there was no sense of acting, because she did that role she did such a great job that you know, there's a little bit of legitimacy, little, you know, it was pretty legit when she came in, that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a little kind of taken back a little bit, you know. And so yeah, she did awesome. She did awesome. Any other questions?
There was a couple times, like I started watching Yellowstone, and then, you know, my class schedule didn't allow me to watch all the episodes. And so then I was all bummed out about that. And I'm like, where's the reruns? And, you know, trying to figure all of that out. And so then I was even trying to live stream. They were saying you can live stream on Netflix. You can't get that on net, or Yellowstone is not on Netflix. And so I
Yep.
was looking around, and the only place you can get Yellowstone is on the Peacock network, and I don't even know how to get that. I'm like, how do you get that network or that streaming? And so I was kind of bummed out because I didn't get to, like, I started watching in season 1, and then my schedule changed, so then I didn't get to finish watching. And then I watched a couple episodes the following year, and then the next year. So I'm like completely lost. I don't know what's going on, but I kind of enjoy watching it. You know, I'm like, are those Crow Indians? What is that? Are those Crow Indians? Who are those people? Tell us.
There are some. There are some, and there's some Flathead Indians. There's some Blackfeet. Because then it all depends. Like in the first few seasons, we bounce back and forth between Utah and then Montana, and so there are some natives from the Utah area, whether they're Utes or Dene. Actually, the Yellowstone is Taylor Sheridan is one of the first individuals who really has a native department. There's actually just a department for Indian people, and a good friend, a good guy, Daryl Begay, is the head of the Indian department. I say Indian. Everyone says Native American, but I say Indian. I'm always going to say Indian. And so we have different tribes that are represented in the show. There's no specific tribe. The Broken Rock Reservation is not a specific tribe. You know, they didn't want to put that stamp on that, because then there's so many stories, so many backstories to all of us. And so if you put one label, one tribal affiliation on a setting, then you can't go beyond that. You know what I'm saying? So Taylor is smart that way. He didn't want to, you know, incarcerate it. He wanted it to be free, and wanted to be free with it, and to be able to incorporate the different issues and things that all of us as Indian people are dealing with and going through. You know, we're at different levels of it too, you know. And so it was very brilliant. Part English, very brilliant. As I should be saying, it's Keely. But yeah, no, and also I know Paramount has a live streaming too. I don't know too much. I mean, I'm in the same boat as you, Maggie. It's when it comes to technology, I am light years behind. For me, I'm just speaking from my personal level. You know, I mean, I can operate the heck out of a flip phone, but anything with a screen on it, I'm at a standstill. I'm very, wow, okay, well, what do I do about this? How, you know, so anyway, still kind of old school.
Well, you
And
better not be that old school. My mom can. Oh no, my mom has a flip phone. Never mind.
Yeah, and so, but no, I'm bringing myself up to date. Kind of have to, especially in this industry, in this business. You know, the career choice that I've made, and so kind of have to get with the times. You know, I do want to say too, you know, I talk a lot about the directors and Taylor and John, who were the first who created Yellowstone. But and the first 3 seasons, you know, getting to work with Kevin Costner has been a blessing. You know, I really admire that guy, because if you think about it, you think about our culture pre Dances with Wolves. There wasn't a lot of popularity. There wasn't a lot of interest. There wasn't a lot of interest in our in our identity and our past. You know, because then when people talked about our past, it was always met with this Hollywood interpretation of our past as violent, warring individuals. And Dances of Wolves was the first, for me, in my eyes. You know, there was two of them. There was Man Called Horse, which after I saw A Man Called Horse, I remember we used to go out to my mom. We would go out to the folks in my mom's clothesline. I say my mom's because she always addressed it as her clothesline. And we would take the rope and tie it to the clothesline post, and we'd take clothespins and pierce it on our shirts, and we would play Sundancers. I remember we'd play Sundancers, and that was kind of influenced a little bit by Man Called Horse. And then Dances of Wolves came along, and it brought a whole different perspective and shined a different light onto who our people once were, and that was loving, compassionate individuals. I mean, we had our strengths, but our true strength was our love and compassion. And so that really like sparked a huge interest in our around the world. Around the world, it sparked this huge interest in our cultural identity. And I told Kevin that one day he came up. He said, "Hey Mo, why don't you grab your lunch and come down to my camp?" Because Kevin doesn't like eat with a lot. He likes to spend a lot of his time by himself, you know, as much as he can. Kind of likes it peaceful. And so we're sitting there, and as I was sitting there eating lunch, I looked at him and I'm like, holy cow, I'm sitting here with Kevin Costner. And I start thinking about riding our bikes from after playing basketball at Our Lady of Lourdes and heading back east on Brotherhood Road, going back home as a little kid, and how we used to be so scared to go by that graveyard that was right by the road. Man, we'd pedal real fast, but I was thinking about that, or hanging out, climbing up into the hills just on the east side of Evergreen. And man, I was thinking about all of my childhood things, you know, and here I was sitting beside Kevin Costner, and we're just talking like two regular guys, like we've known each other for years. And so I had to like literally pinch myself, and then it made me think about our young people that struggle, you know. I had my struggles too, but I think this day and age, our young people have a whole nother level of turmoil and the struggles that they face, you know, especially with technology. It made it much more harder to deal with. But I had to acknowledge, you know, Kevin Costner and what he done, you know. And I told him, I said, you know, I want to say thank you. You know, you done something for our culture, for my people's culture and our way, you know, and I really appreciate you. And so we just created a bond from that moment, you know. And Kevin's honestly, he's a good, down to earth, legitimate guy, you know. And I know he wants to help. He wants to help people, you know, and he does what he can for people, you know. And so I really appreciate that about him. And he helps all kinds of people. Look at her. Cute. And same with everyone else, you know. Wes Bentley, amazing guy, man. Wow. Everyone's just cool as heck. Wes Bentley and I have the same birthday day. We share the same birthday day. Callie, who plays Beth Dutton, oh dang, she's such a sweetheart. So is her husband. He's cool as heck too. Luke Grimes Luke Grimes legit too. Everyone, everyone's just so amazing on the show. We're truly a family on that show. And so, good folks, good human beings.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
And she has to crash the Zoom because this is her and I home.
That's awesome.
But so did you give him a cavalry hat and say Lieutenant?
No, I didn't. I didn't do that. I did not do that. I didn't even make any jokes. We just, man, like I said, we joked around about some stuff, but but nothing about that. I didn't do that. Actually too, Kevin is an amazing musician. If you ever get a chance to listen to Kevin Costner and his band, oh my gosh, do it. That guy is an amazing musician. And so, yeah, no, I need to, one day I'll get the courage to do that.
You could take him with the hat and say you left this on the prairie.
Yeah. I got this back for you. Just so here you go. No, I'm not going to do that. Oh man, I have a lot of love and respect for Kevin Costner. She's a cutie.
I think that's pretty. Oh, thank you. She's always crashing our Toksa Hour. I've taken her. I've had her since probably about October. So.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
She yeah, she's my life now. Everything is about her. Everything is about her.
That's good.
But
that's good.
And when you think about like being with like having those kind of conversations with Kevin Costner, and like I'm just like, geez, I don't even know. Like truthfully, I'd probably be like you, like can't even crack a joke, can't even say nothing, just sitting there staring at him like, are you real? Like touching the face or whatever. Are you real? Am I talking to you? Are we in a field of dreams? What's going on here?
Right.
I think I'd probably be the same, just like looking and thinking, wow, does this guy know how he's really impacted our life?
Right.
The way they would always say that in industry that like every 10 years or so the native community or the native issues get brought out in film. And so they talk about like how Dances with Wolves came out and that just made being Indian cool again or whatever. And then it faded out, and then came, I think, Thunderheart, right?
Yep.
I think Thunderheart came out after that. But like all of how issues like get brought up, and like you're saying, they didn't like do any specific tribal group, because they didn't want to distinguish. And then it made me automatically think of Thunderheart and Red Deer Table, like we're all like, there's no Red Deer Table, but so that they just declassify or whatever, even though they're talking about the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. But I just think that's all really, I don't know. I think I'd just be starstruck. I really do. I met he's not even really famous as Kevin Costner famous or Moses Brings Plenty famous. I mean, he was just our local news center guy. And I met him and I was like, hey. And that was some time ago. He did News Center one morning, the morning show, and he was so funny. Like he would anyway. So I met him somewhere in Rapid, and I was just like that. Wanted like, are you real? Like, am I talking to you? And he was just a local TV guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I could just only imagine what it would be like to be in your.
Right. I mean, we joke, like I said, we do joke around. I mean, one day we were filming, it was the first season. There was Danny Houston who played Dan Jenkins. It was a meeting between Dan Jenkins and Rainwater. And so we were up at Jenkins Country Club and getting ready to do the scene, and Kevin showed up. Kevin came out. He's like, "Man, I just want to hang out with my people." And so we were, man, I can't remember what we was talking about. But next thing you know, we busted out laughing, and we were laughing so loud that they finally had to tell us, "Hey, you guys pipe down over there," because they were trying to get set up for the next shoot. And so kind of, again, we joke around, we laugh a lot. And it's quite amazing. I mean, how I just I feel like when I'm there, that I always try to bring our people, our culture. I always try to keep that at the forefront of everything. And so in visiting and so when we have those serious moments, I'm always talking about our people, and not just our lows, but also our highs, and how so many of our people are still warriors, and like you and Julie, my brother Joe, others, Walt Poirier. Man, I can go on and try to bring to light, that we're still a resilient people. We are still strong, and talk about our grandmas, and our grandpas. And so I'm always trying to keep our people at the forefront. And when I walk away, I hope that our people remain in the minds of them, whether it's Daniel Craig or so on and so forth. I mean, and so I just, like, we're just all people. We're all human beings at the end of the day. Um, and I have to always remind myself, and I remember what my grandpa always said. My grandpa Philip Brinks Plenty, he used to always say, humble yourself every day. As long as you humble yourself, then Wakantaka, or the spirit world, will never have the need to humble you. Because if they have to humble you, then it's going to be very painful. But if you humble yourself, then you're going to be okay. And so I try to live with that. I mean, it's with that as part of my driving force, and remembering where we came from. I will never ever forget where we came from. In fact, I'm trying to remember more and go beyond just my physical life, and remembering where we came from, and go beyond the reservation life, and remembering where we came from. It's so important, and that's what helps I try to bring that in every project that I do. I try to bring that into life, and so people will not forget, that they know, that they remember that we're still here. We're still here, and we're still strong. Which brings to light, we're talking about Kevin Costner, and what he done, Dances of Wolves done for us, and many other amazing projects. But Leonard Crodog Jr. and we got to go to Italy a few times, to build and work towards build a friendship between their government and some of the providence there to our people. And not just our people, but from the far north of Canada, Alaska, to all the way the most southern part of South America. And so we've been working with Dr. Martyr, a good brother of ours. And so, we've been working on that, trying to get our sovereignty, our human rights recognized throughout within other countries. And we've been working desperately at that and hard. And so thanks to our brother, Dr. Martyr, you know, we've been making some good headway in in that in that process. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to our brother and our relatives over there in Italy, for, you know, the Wombly Glashka organization, for everything that they've done and continue to do, and helping us make headway and getting human rights and getting recognized and empowering our sovereignty. And so that, and then I think, what else? Is there any other questions? Anything else I should talk about?
Well, after our last live with you, there were so many comments, people saying hi, people saying that they're proud of you, people wanting you to run for office, people wanting you to do a YouTube channel, people wanting you to talk to students and talk about and share your views about culture and some of the things you touched base on. And I loved the feedback. It was really awesome. And I kind of had to laugh. I went to Porcupine Store, and one of the younger Unchis was like, "You better tell Moses he's got to live here a year before he runs. So he's got to move back about June or July." And I'm like, oh, I loved it. I'm like, wow, okay, this is, you know, one of our own people. And it was cute. And I love that support and that encouragement. And yeah, you really had a lot of people wanting you back on. And I'm so glad you came back on. And a lot of people were wondering if you're gonna kind of maybe expand upon some of your views and some of your teachings on other forums, or what's in store for you in that realm.
You know, I think for me, I think it is going to be important to share quite a bit of our culture. I mean, not just to somehow teach our young people. I mean, you think about it. I mean, if you really truly think about culture and how important it is, I mean, to obtain your own cultural identity is what gives you life. It's what helps you to become successful. I mean, today, if you look back, I always tell people they used to address our ancestors as uneducated. But man, you think about it, our people were so highly educated, you know, because, and I've had conversations with anthropologists, professors, and I love those conversations, not to try to degrade them, but I always say, you know, we're smart people, right? And they say, yeah. Even myself, I'm educated in your guys', you know, industrial education system, but I'm also educated in our tradition. And I'm going to show you a little bit of difference. And so I'll ask the individual, point in the direction of up. And they'll do. Okay, now point in the direction of down. And they'll do. They'll do just that. And I say, you know, in our tradition, there is no up and there is no down. There is simply over there and here. Because if you think about it, the universe is so vast. There is what is up and what is down within this universe. It is all around. That to me is truly a higher educated mind. You know, and so I really am, I'm so intrigued by the level of intelligence that our ancestors obtained and have, and which we still have. I mean, you know, we talk about DNA, the memory within our DNA, and how do we provoke that memory in our DNA? I mean, if you look at like on our, what I talk about to the young farmers and younger generations of ranchers, because it is important to speak with them and share with them that we have to somehow divert our way of thinking and doing things and begin our process to step away from the use of chemicals, because the land is so chemically saturated. You look at the Wuhan virus, or the coronavirus, that was only able to expand because in the use of pesticides may have wiped out or altered the first level of defense and killing that, the insects that killed viruses for so long. And maybe this virus is just considered like a white blood cell to the earth. And we've become so altered and whatnot that we are causing damage to the earth that now her body is beginning to retaliate. So you could look at it several different ways. But what I want to get at is that for the indigenous grasses to this land, which produce so much more nutrients for everything that consumed them, such as buffalo, horses, even cattle, sheep, so on and so forth, those native grasses retreated because their root system is at times over 6 feet tall. So because of the use and abuse of chemicals on the land and the lack of the proper movement, those the root system retreated into the depths of the soil. So how do you bring that system? How do you bring that back? How do you encourage him to come back? Well, you can't go to Walmart and buy a bag of Miracle Grow and sprinkle it down on the ground and expect it to come back. It won't work that way. The only way for those grasses to come back, that vegetation, original vegetation to return, is you have to allow the original movements upon the land to return. And that's where buffalo and horses come into play. Because again, as I said in the last show, we've always had horses here long before the Spanish ever brought theirs. We've had the Tatanka Oyate, the Buffalo Nation's always been here, but they didn't write about them either. Yaka, the Elk Nation's always been here. They didn't write about them either because the Spanish didn't go into the territories and the areas where the horses resided and the buffalo and elk all reside. And so we've always had them here. And they've always played a vital and important role on the land with the movement. I've watched buffalo and I've watched horses because we've had them. I have them on the property and I watch them. And they would stand. And this is the truth. They stand facing each other. And it always makes me nervous because the buffalo are so strong and they can outmaneuver a horse. And I'm like, oh man, I hope nothing gets hurt. And so when it first happened, they were standing there and all of a sudden the buffalo took off. They took off and they ran. They ran this pattern and they came back in front of the horses. And then the horses took off and they ran this pattern and they came back. And then the horses did it again. Sometimes the buffalo did it again. Sometimes each of them would do it 2 to 3 times. And then on the final time, they would run together. And so there was a ceremony occurring on the land that it wasn't just a run. There was a way they moved. And so I knew it was sending this vibration, and they were telling the original inhabitants, the vegetation, that, hey, we're here now. It's okay to come back. We need you. Please, we need you. So they were calling them back. And so we have to do the same. Our memory within our DNA retreated because of how our mind has been taught and we think about on a daily basis. Think about just our daily lives. I think about this all the time. If Sitting Bull and his family came back, or Crazy Horse and his family came back to our reservation right now, how would the people react? How would they be treated? How would the women in that family be treated? How would Crazy Horse be treated? How would our spiritual leaders of today, how would they talk about a spiritual leader from back then? All of us, that's any of us, not just our spiritual leaders, even us as the people. How would we speak about them? How would we look upon them? Would we have judgment towards them? Or would we love them and say, hey, teach us. Because we have to keep in mind, we have a society that we still are trying to coexist in and find a level of comfort within our own identity to be able to do so. Find a fearlessness to be able to stand true to our identity and still coexist in the society. And so we really have to think about that. And so how do we reawaken that memory within our DNA? How many of us go and spend time and watch the buffalo? Because their movement still has instructions. Every time they move, there's an instruction given, they're sharing. How many of us are voicing our opinion about the wild horses they call wild Mustangs, which really a lot of these horses that are considered Mustangs still carry the DNA of our ancestral horses? How many of us are voicing our opinion and trying to save or put an end to the eradication that the United States government is doing to them right now? I mean, shoot, they're loading them up, hauling them either to Mexico or Canada and slaughtering them. Every horse that is slaughtered, killed, every wild horse that is killed, that is another page in an open manual for our memory that it resides within our DNA. If we can bring them back, just to be around them, to be able to see them and watch them, that's them calling our memory back and encouraging us and helping us to call our memory back. That will bring our fearlessness back to the forefront, our love and our compassion for one another and for all of life. And so we have to be able to do these things. I mean, I worked with the Canna Foundation, and you think about it, we we had a little youth camp at our brother Lynn's place down in Oklahoma on a Comanche reservation, the Comanche people there. Because when I was talking to Lynn and to others, you know, the Comanche were a great horse nation. They were great people and had a great connection with the horses. And I was like, man, how many Comanche? Because I played Quanah Parker in a History Channel show called Comanche Warriors. And when they approached me about the project, I said, man, go to the Comanche people. They're, you know, go talk to them. And so they did. And months passed and they came back to me and said, we can't find anyone who could ride a horse. They found a few, but they all had short hair, nothing, you know, we'll put a wig on them. But they didn't fit the structure or the what they were looking for anyway. And so I'm like, well, if you get the permission from their elders, I'll do it. And so they did. And so I agreed to do the show. And so I was like, man, we got to change that. And so I talked to my brother Lynn and his family, and he opened up his place. They were like, yeah, let's do a youth horse camp here. And so we did. And we got support from, you know, a lot of good people, a lot of amazing people. And so I'm like, we haven't, with this whole pandemic thing, we didn't do it as of late. And actually we kind of slowed down a lot. But just because we slowed down, the sad part is that they're still rounding up wild horses. They're still incarcerating them. They're still sending them to Mexico and Canada. That didn't slow down. And so I still have to figure out a way to how we can begin to try to get horses recognized as original inhabitants of this continent. Because again, we've always had horses here long before the Spanish brought theirs. And so I think all of us as Indian people, we are the ones, if we care about our existence, if we care about the well-being of our youth and the future generations, the horses are a great relative and a great need to the minds and to the hearts and to the emotions of our youth, because I know what horses did for me. Even still today, if I feel like I have my moments still where I get so frustrated and I become so resentful and angry at a society that for in a lot of my younger years told me that being Indian is shameful, and you're not going to get anywhere by being that. But I go out and I ask my brother, hey, bro, could we hang out? Chia, could we hang out? He's a descendant from Sitting Bull's original herd of horses. And I said, I need your help today. And I will go ahead and get on him, halter him up, get on him, and we go for a walk. And I talk to him. I just talk to him. Sometimes cry, you know, and then after we're done on our walk, I feel better. I feel so much better. I feel strong again. And so I'm like, man, if only, and there are times we don't even have to go for a walk. Just hug him. I just give him a hug. Just give him a hug. And there are times just to watch him. Just to get a look from him too. Is so powerful. It's like, man, our youth need this. And our youth needs something to do. Our youth need to understand, and because our youth are so innocent. They're so innocent. They don't know the discrepancies that we have amongst, you know, from one family to another. They don't understand and know all that garbage. They simply know, hey, I want to play. Let's hang out. You know, that's innocence. And so if we can maintain and keep that, and as adults, be that powerful wall that will keep that separation that we've had, or that you know, our anger or our disagreements, I'll put it that way, our disagreements with our neighbors and our peers, if we keep that away from the minds of our young people, you know what? The Lakota nation will be so strong, the world will come and ask, how can we be like you again? How can we be like you? They will stop looking at us with sympathy and start looking at us as who we are. You know, I don't want people's sympathy. And I always tell people that, man, we don't need your sympathy. Sympathy destroys and continues to deteriorate and pull down. Sympathy does not heal anything. Sympathy is no cure to nothing. It's actually devastating. I don't need your sympathy. You want to stand with me? You want to help me? Then come on, stand right beside me. And you got to get your hands dirty too. Let's go. I'm not dirty, but you know what I mean? And so, I mean, we talk about diversity. This is a thing that irritates me the most today. I mean, it's cool that there's a vice president, female vice president. That's awesome. You know, but that still doesn't do anything for us as Indian people. And then they're like, well, why not? It's a person of color. I say, I tell you what, because I don't need people of color. I need people of culture. Only people of culture can actually do something and be a change for all of us and help us out and know how to stand with us. They're going to understand who we are. We don't need people of color. Look what President Barack Obama did. He went to the Standing Rock Indian Reservation to look at where they're going to help make the pipe cross. He didn't go there to fix anything or to make amends or to help build a relationship. The opposite. So I'm sick and tired of I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm not going to glorify and praise people of color. And yeah, that's awesome. No, that's cool. That's awesome. But I will be impressed when people of culture begin to get into those positions. That's what we need. People of culture. Especially people of culture that understand and know the struggles
I agree
that...
with you, you know.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to tell you that all of what you're just now saying about like the horse culture and all of that, um, for the longest time in the academic field of who controlled the story of the colonization of this continent, our continents. um, well, I can't remember the guy's name, but he died about 6 years ago. Like all of this research has been out there, findings, architectural findings, about the people that were on this continent prior to the Europeans coming. Anyways, they discovered horses that are way older, bones of horses that are way older than um the Spaniards or whenever they brought their horses. So I think Albert Whitehat, he passed away some years ago, but he talks about that too. And so there's actual evidence of that. But the real interesting thing is that that was being suppressed. And so since that guy has passed on, um, all of these new things are coming out, and you're like I'll read the research and I'll be thinking, hey, this came out, or they found this in the 90s, and we're just now reading about it. We're just now seeing this, the discoveries that are out there. The language linguistics, they actually say that people of the Americas and people of Turtle Island, the people of here and the people of Australia, they say are the oldest people on the planet. And they argue that is because of how diverse their language is. And they say that it takes over 250,000 years to have such language diversity. And Europe is actually younger. The
Yep.
Europeans are the white people or whatever. They are actually younger than us
Yep.
and our people. Their language is young. They're not diverse, and so I've I like to really read those things. But what you're saying is supported in academics. It's just like a lot of that information was suppressed, and so we always had to believe that we came over the Bering Straits, and that this is how things were. And it's real interesting too because you talk about the Tatanka. Uh, ours here. Well, there's also one in Europe. I think they call it the Vicent. It's Wisent. I don't know
Yep.
how to pronounce that word, but
Yep.
I say Wisent, but I think it's Vicent. And it's a woodland buffalo. And that buffalo has the same story of our buffalo, in which they tried to, in the process of colonization in Europe, they try to eradicate that bison from this group of people because they themselves too considered themselves the buffalo people, and they had to take that bison and put it in hiding, and they hid it in I think I want to say Belgium, and and tried to, there was only like 600 of them left, and so they had to try to bring their herds back, and so they had to hide them from slaughter and so forth. So there's like a real real interesting story, but it never gets told because nobody, it doesn't fit the narrative. And so I really appreciate what you're saying and talking about that, because there archaeology, anthropology, um linguistics, there's a lot of studies that are out there that look into this and have findings that say exactly what we say as Native people. And anyway, so that I just wanted to say that, to add that in there. I thought that was really awesome, telling that story, because we have so much behind that, and that belief that we couldn't be horse people before the Spaniards brought the horse, or we couldn't be people before the European people came and brought things, but they didn't really bring anything. They brought plague. We had to show them how to live and
Yep.
survive on this continent.
That's
So,
right.
anyways,
No, you're
sorry, I didn't
absolutely
mean
right.
to interrupt you.
No, you're totally fine. Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because if you look at it, we had horse ceremonies specifically for the horse. We have songs that are holds our language, and so if you think about it, and that's the thing I always tell people is like, man, our language is much older than civilization, and so our I could take you, and I tell people this too, I could take you right exactly where our birthplace is. He said, oh yeah, where's that? And I said, well, you now know it as Wind Cave National Park. That's our birthplace. That's where we were drawn from the earth. And this anthropologist one time is like, no, there's, the Bering Strait. I said, okay, the ice bridge concept. And I said, that's the sad part with today's time, is that we've based so much of our lives on the foundation of theory. Everyone has a theory. I said, well, I base my existence on facts and reality. And so I asked this anthropologist, I said, I tell you what, I will believe your theory. We go up to the most northern part of Canada, and 100-mile journey. I drop you off with just leathers, and you track 100 miles in the dead of winter. And you can even do it in the summertime. And if you can exist that and you exist and you survive that 100 miles, then I'll believe in your theory. Because, and if you look at anything, if you take a palm tree out of the desert and you plant it in South Dakota in the summertime, that palm tree is going to be okay until fall hits, and then it still might be okay, but then winter comes, it won't be okay. And so that palm tree still has a purpose, it has a place. The Wakantaka put everything where it was needed. And so if you look at how we view our history, or I'm not going to say understand it, because it's hard to understand man's theory and how things came about. And so I look at how we view it as people of today and where we come from. There's everything that we've been taught as Indian people. It's caused so much segregation and separation, and to try to change that, it's an uphill battle. I mean, people always say, "Oh man, good luck with that, Mo. That's a steep mountain to climb." I said, "That's all right. I'm gonna try it. I gotta try. I'm gonna spend my life trying. If I succeed, if it happens, great. If not, oh well. At least I know I tried." And so to try and change how people view us, even ourselves, is so important. It's so important in life. And so I think we're making some progress. People didn't believe when I was telling them about the horses. We've always had horses here. And then in Utah, just a couple years ago, they found a skeleton, and they carbon dated it and said it was like 4,000 or 5,000 years pre Spanish horses arriving here. I'm like, yeah. So there's pictographs from Wyoming all the way to the northern part of Mexico. There's pictographs, and those pictographs are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. And again, there's our language. And so we can go on and on about that. And so I think it's important that we need to start voicing our opinions now, because to save our future, to save our existence, to save our culture, we need to save those that obtain that true knowledge and understanding of it, and who shared it with us from the very beginning. And that was the horses, that's the buffalo, it's all of them, even the wolves, the coyotes. They remind us to sing our songs of gratitude. They gave us songs of gratitude. They sing early in the morning for the day that they get to see another day, and then they sing in the evenings. I listen to them all the time. I made where I live, we have ducks, we have a guinea, we have little critters. And so we have a coyote den in our back pasture, and one of our pastures here. And so I made an agreement with them. I said, in the winter times when it's hard, I will feed you. But when it's nice, it's spring, summer, and fall, you guys are on your own, but please don't hurt our little relatives. And so I made that agreement, and I stand true to that agreement. We have coyote pups that come up to the barn. I've watched coyote pups dance. If you ever get to watch coyote pups dance, it's beautiful. It makes you laugh and cry at the same time. And so I watched a coyote play with one of the cats. It wasn't trying to eat it. I watched it. The coyote was chasing the cat. The cat chasing and then they both stopped when I said, "Hey." They said, "Hey," and they both looked at us, and then they just walked away from each other. I mean, that relationship. I'm not saying I'm some type of medicine man. I'm not a medicine man. I'm just saying that relationship, that understanding, because I have to express my gratitude to the Coyote Nation for what they've done for us and what they shared with us also. That's why our whole purpose, all of our ceremonies was always to not glorify, but to acknowledge and pay respects to those who shared something with us that God helped us to get closer to our maker, to our dreamer, to the one who breathed life into us. Unchimaka, Ashana Waklantika. And so that's our maker. The earth is our maker too. We can consider that our maker. That's where we come from. But we've been taught to look down upon her versus, acknowledging. We've been taught to say resources versus the source. That's the source to spiritual life. Instead, we say, it's a resource for the physical life. So we have to rechange how we think, as the people. And maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm wrong, but for me, I'm right because I'm healthy, I feel good, and 100% natural. I don't go to a gym. I just ride horses, and I try to see how close I can get to the buffalo without getting taken out. So I don't know. I keep pushing myself. The Authentica doesn't test me. I test myself. And because I know that the higher power loves us enough to not test us. They call it, they say, I used to remember as a kid, they're going to say, when you die, you're going to, the God's going to stand there with the book of life and look at your book of life. And I'm thankful for that understanding, because and then I start to think, man, whoa, if there's a book of life and I just can't repent and ask for forgiveness and it's all said and done, because I used to think I could do that before I met death. And then I walked away from that understanding, but I held on to the teaching of it, because if there is a book of life, then that means every passing day that I've got to see is documented. And so I began to hey, can I thumb through that too? Can I look back at that? And hopefully I conduct my life in a manner and way that the other chapters and other pages would be written differently. And that when it's all said and done, when I have to make that transition in life, that it's my relatives who will come to take me home. That's the important part. Because then, again, I have to ask myself, if Crazy Horse or Sitting Bull or Brinks Plenty, any of them walked into my home today, would they know me? Would they call it a home? Would they know me? Ashana Lakota Woglaka. Yeah, to speak to Lakota, but it's not about the language. It's about the movement. It's about what we have done. It's about what we do and what we have done. And so I have to be honest with myself, man. I'm like, no, like I said before, I'm not trying to make history. I desire to blend into a history, an amazing, beautiful, great history, because that's where spirituality was so 100% legit. It was seen every day of life, seen physically every day of life. There was no faith involved in that spirituality. There was only trust, because it was that real. So I want trust back in my life. I don't want to depend on my faith. My faith is so questionable. And again, there's a difference between how my definition of trust is 100%. There's no questions asked. Where faith, it's questionable. I don't see it, but I'm gonna try to convince myself in believing in that, you know. And so I have to depend on what I. That's why I say I'm a realist. I'm a realist, and maybe by being a realist, I can become a traditionalist again one day for the children to see. There. Sorry. I go on. Someone put a quarter in me again.
That's pretty good. Probably $1.50.
Yeah, right. One too many cups of coffee. You know.
No, that's good stuff though.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, again, you know, I'm proud of Vice President Harris. You know, that's awesome. That's way cool. It's good to see people of color getting involved. I'm going to go back to that, and I just want people to know that I think what's really going to be the change for us is when people of culture begin to get involved, and that's what's important. And so we need to encourage that, because without culture, without people of culture, there would be no understanding of the needs that we have as a people, you know. And I'm talking support wise, whether it's like, man, yeah, get it, we get it, go for it. We're going to abolish this law. We're going to give you human rights, you know, we're going to declare you human beings, because again, we're not even declared human beings within our own country. You know, Shannon County taxes are collected and then they're sent to Fall River County instead of Shannon County getting to keep those taxes. Any Indian person is taxed, and I don't understand why, because we're not even declared human beings. But if we're going to be taxed, then we have to, even as tribal enrolled members, and we're not residing on a reservation, we're still taxed. But if we're still being taxed, then here's what should happen. We as Indian people, as reservations, as nations, we're supposed to be sovereign nations. Then if we're so incorporated and we're ran and forced to run, but under your guidelines as the United States government, then we should have our own college electoral votes. I think the Lakota Nation should have 10 electoral votes, that the Nation should have 15. They're a little bigger than us, you know, should have 15 electoral votes. You know, we're still taxed. So if that's what our tribal leaders should be fighting for, and saying, hey, okay, you're going to tax our people, whether they reside on or off the reservation, you're still taxing them. Here's what we're going to need then. And or if you don't want to give us electoral votes, you know, that again, we want to declare a sovereign people, but we're functioning under your guidelines, then we should have electoral votes, because electoral votes is what elects leaders, you know, political leaders. So I mean, this is the things that we should. Man, I can go on and on, whether it's about culture or politics. I mean, I can go on and on. I'm a visionary. and it's all thanks to nature.
I think that's pretty interesting that people of color versus people of culture. And like, if like the United States is all founded in this melting pot, so we're all supposed to somehow blend and be one. And I think that the melting pot must have went through some kind of massive separator or something, you know, because it seems like nowadays we are all coming back into a place of saying who we are, you know, and what we are, and not being so willing to um be the melting pot. And so I've really been thinking about that too. I had heard that before, and I don't know if you said it the last time you was on about people of culture, but nothing changes until, you know, you're right. You actually get people who start to respect difference. And when, like, you can go on to job advertisements, and they are looking for people who are diverse. they're looking for diversity and equity directors and coordinators and all these different positions, because what they're realizing is they don't have diversity in their organizations. And so how do you get diversity? But the thing about promoting diversity and equity is also that underlying thing is understanding culture,
That's right.
where the person comes from and who they are, and then why they make the decisions that they make. The biggest thing right now is Biden told 2000, right? Like the Democrats and everybody's like having this big old discussion over who gets the 2000 or who gets the 1400. It should just only be impoverished people that should get that. And it's just like, really, like when you think about people in like in our culture, there might only be one, two, three people working in a tioshpae, and they take on a lot of the lift to help their relatives.
Mhm.
And so, no, I mean, this whole policy about, oh, just give it to the people that are, however they're defining poverty line, I think is like 50,000 or something like that, and anybody
Mhm.
making that below that is impoverished. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, we're all poor anyways, based off
Right.
of that. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, and Lakota people are not alone in this whole concept. Like, you'll have a lot of immigrants or migrants or whatever that have that same kind of, where whoever is working is kind of taking care of the family to help, and then everybody's putting in and giving in and so forth. And some people call that the culture of poverty, that impoverished people, that's what they do. I really don't like Ruby Payne. I don't like her theory. I just argue it all the time because she tries to say it's not culture, it's poverty. And but that's kind of like where this whole political thing is, like,
Yeah.
oh, we got Biden, oh, we got, so here's Bernie Sanders saying, um like she Bernie saying, gee, Donald Trump gave everybody, was going to give everybody $2,000, and here's the Democrats, or here's Joe Biden. He's only going to give certain people $1,400. So,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting twist of everything. But like, we all put our eggs in one basket, thinking that everything's going to be okay in that situation, and then we're sitting here all like,
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's if you look at it again too, for me, and what helped me to really understand it was I was looking at, I was kind of reflecting on different projects that I've done and kind of what I felt like I said, when we first started today, I said that there were some projects that I worked on that I felt like I was just part of set decoration. And Yellowstone is probably that. The show I did before, Hell on Wheels, was another one that I kind of felt like, all right, we're actually getting somewhere. And what I noticed was in the directors, there was different directors of different nationalities, but they all still had the main mindset. And it was the people that were open, that had a desire of culture, just the desire of culture, that's where we were allowed to shine as Indian people. And so it's the same thing. I mean, I remember one time I was in Washington, D.C., and they said, man, you should be proud. This was back during Obama's administration. They said, you should be proud. I said, proud for what? They said, there's a lot of Native Americans here. Haven't you seen them? I said, well, that don't do me any good. I need a bunch of Indians here. And they said, what? I said, yeah, Indian people. They said, well, I said, no, I'm not talking about the dotted kind. I'm not talking about the Hindu people. I'm talking about the original Indian people of this country. We need more Indian people in DC to represent us and to not sell us out and fight for our rights, And so they were like, kind of disappointed that I wasn't impressed, but I'm just stating a fact, is that, again, our existence is going to be solely dependent on what we do as the people, and how we're going to react, to everything that we're faced against. And also who is going to be elected into these positions, not people of color, but people of culture, and how are we going to support them, and so it's really kind of, we're back, we're now, I don't say we're no longer standing, our backs are not on the wall, we're stepping on our children now today. I just saw the little one, man, that's the reason why I live too. Her life, all of them, they're the reason why I live. They're the reason why I'm constantly challenging myself to think about how can we get back our rights? How can we get back our power as a people? What's going to be the healer, the medicine for our people, for the minds of our children? We have drug issues, we have alcoholism. Man, but here's the thing. I tell people, it's like, man, if there's a business will only succeed as long as there's customers going to that business. But the moment that we change, that there's no more customers going to that business will fail. I mean, you listen to how this government fights against, how Trump was saying, got to build a wall, got drug dealers coming in. And well, if you didn't have so many customers in this country, then maybe those guys wouldn't be wanting to come here. I mean, it's really the reality that we got to look at the realities of life, and it's the facts. And so I think I look at this artist too. There's an artist who built this native sculpture, the sculpture of this Indian warrior, and people in that community were defacing it all the time. And then all of a sudden he's like, man, I got to do something. And so what he ended up doing was he ended up going to the school, to the elementary, to the schools, and giving presentation about art and about Indian art and la-di-da, la-di-da. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. I'm just saying on and on. And it wasn't until years later that the desecration of his artwork didn't come to an end. It came to an end finally. And what happened was the younger generation that he shared with and educated, they looked at that art piece of sculpture differently. They looked at the artwork differently versus the older generation. And so the desecration of it came to an end. And so it's the same with us too. If we don't start now with our young people and really start incorporating, I mean, remember when we were in school, I remember Unchi Nelly Tubles. Oh my gosh, she was my angel, and she kept me strong in a lot of ways. And I think about her all the time. I think about her, all of our grandmas. I think about all of them. There were a lot of grandmas, but in school where I struggled a lot, Unchi Nelly was always there, right when I needed it the most. And so, but I mean, if we could bring our elders back into our education system, because the study's been done, it's been proven. If you isolate a young group, they're gonna grow up and they're gonna kind of start setting their own concepts of how things need to be. But if we get our elders back into the schools and start sharing with our children, just even a little bit, Unchi Nali shared a lot. I obtained it. I didn't understand it for a lot of years, but I get it today, And so I think those are important things that we need to, back in the day, that's the way it was. Our young people spent a lot of time with our elders in the villages. And so we need to bring that back again. And it's be good medicine for our elders too. Boy, I'm going on and on again. You're gonna have to call it Toksa Hour.
Well, Mo, you're always insightful and thought-provoking, and we appreciate that. There's so many requests for a show to be done with yourself and for Joe to come on. So hopefully
I'm
that's something
game.
we can plan out in the future. And I have to apologize. There were a lot of questions rolling up, and I was more interested in listening to you than going back and forth. So my apologies that I didn't get to some of the questions, but we encourage that and I appreciate it. And again, well, thank you for coming on with us and sharing with us. And you're always welcome and always encouraged. And I love learning and I love listening, and it gives a lot to think about, and I appreciate that. And so just want to thank you again for coming on with us and sharing with us.
I thank you both very much, and well, I hope everyone stays safe and warm up there. You know, I'm gonna be going back. I'm gonna go visit my ate and spend time with the family. I just wanted to share this real quick though. This is a protocol, a document that we received while we was in Italy. And again, like I said, working towards getting our people truly recognized as a sovereign nation, and and how long we've been here forever. And so I'll bring a copy of this up too. But I just want to say thank you to everyone, and please stay safe. Go check on the grandmas and grandpas. Please, the young men, young people, go check on the grandmas and grandpas, especially during this upcoming week. It's going to be pretty cold, and so. But yeah, I'm game for another show sometime. Thank you all so very much for
It's
everything.
really exciting,
really
Moses.
Oh, go ahead.
Really exciting to have you on. I mean, this is just like something, here we are, just average Indians doing this, and it's just really really great to visit. And I think this is something, even in this pandemic, that we're all missing, the communication and seeing each other and all of that. And so I want to thank you, and I'm gonna really be looking forward to it. I think that show will be fun. I know Joe is watching, so you maybe we could start working on a day that we can kind of come on and do that. I think that would be amazing. But anyways, thank you for coming on. We sure appreciated it. A lot of questions in the comments, a lot of comments in the comments. So if you ever get time, Moses, you or your wife can go scroll through there. But anyways, you guys all have a good Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. The snow's coming down, so like Moses said, get out and check on your relatives and make sure everybody's got their heat and is taken care of. Other than that, you guys be safe. Doksha.
Doksha.